we're live. Woohoo! So, thank you so much for joining, spending part of your Sunday morning or early afternoon with me. As I was saying before we went live, I could never have done this in person. So, having this technology available is really quite wonderful. Hi, Mark. You joined us just in time. So, I want to invite you to change your name if you want to. You could put where you are in the country. I'm in Northern California, Alameda, and I'm Leslie, the host of The Glass Half Full, and I'm very happy to be celebrating with podcast guests and friends the 5-year anniversary. I wish I could share some wonderful beverages and foods with you. So let's just pretend I'm passing around some yummy hummus and guacamole. So here, Mindy, I'm passing you the hummus. Ted, you're getting the guacamole, and Shamika, I'm gonna pour you a little sparkling beverage of your choice and imbibe safely and cautiously. So, in the most recent podcast episode, 5 years of self-care, I spoke about my sort of brand of radical self-care. And years ago, before I was diagnosed with myotonic dystrophy, I realized that what I ate and what I did throughout the day and how I thought throughout the day really had an impact on my health. And so my awareness just sort of increased, over the years as I was becoming more aware of the symptoms and as they progressed. And just a short little piece about myself is that I did a lot of research in health research, and I discovered the term, this is about 15 or so years ago, the term self-management health behaviors. And it was coined by a team of Stanford University researchers. They were multidisciplinary researchers, and they used it to describe what people with arthritis could do to help manage their symptoms. And that was the first sort of disease or health condition that they did their work with. And they went on to study many other chronic illnesses, and it became it's actually a large body of research, and that was what I decided to do my doctoral dissertation on, more in the context of how you can promote these health behaviors in the context of a support group. And many of you may know that's really how I came into this, has been through 23 years of support group facilitation. So that's my background. Self-management health behaviors is a mouthful. I like to say self-care. I think that resonates with more people, and pretty much they're synonymous. So in the podcast episode, I talk about my self-care, but what I wanted to do here is really hear from other people. How you interpret the term self-care. We'll do that, in a round. And then we're going to sort of talk about what has helped you cope with the pandemic. So I'm going to call in different people. And, if you don't want to talk at that time, that's fine. Just let me know. But if you could unmute yourself when I call on you, that would be great. So Verla is in Canada, and you'll remind us all where you are in Canada.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Leslie. I love your podcast, Glass Half Full, and it's so nice to see all these faces. I am in the middle of Canada, Manitoba, and in the north a bit in the country. So that's where I am. And I'm pretty new to podcasting. I started about a year or so ago. And like I say in my podcast, I shine a light on aging adults who spend their time or looking or going outside to be close to grass, trees, and shrubs. And I started the podcast for two reasons. I want to help people to see that going outside is not just a nice thing to do, but I think it can save your life, which it did mine. I was diagnosed with systemic lupus, and the one piece of advice I got was to avoid the sun. So a long journey there, but through a lupus support group member, I was encouraged to go outside, which I did do after a year of feeling like a prisoner in my own home. And I'm a nurse with a retired nursing professor, and I was doing all this traditional research, and then I went into this green space research. And so that's what I wrote my book about. It's called Take Back Your Outside Mindset, and that's what my podcast is about. So
Great. Thank you, Verla. Okay, Ted, we're going to come down from Manitoba and land in Indianapolis.
I'm Ted Solomon. I am a dear friend of Leslie's. I am a support group co-facilitator, and I am an advocate for the myotonic dystrophy community. I especially hold caregiver call-ins, and different caregivers in the country in the myotonic dystrophy community have a chance to talk and learn and create community. As far as self-care goes, with me, it's been a process. As a caregiver for my wife and son, I did almost no self-care. A handful of cheeseburgers was my daily fare. And needless to say, not doing that and not visiting a doctor, strokes happen. I had a stroke in 2016, and I really had to relearn things about self-care. You know, how to take a break, how to disengage, how to change eating habits. And so for me, self-care has been a process and a learning experience because I'm still working through it. I do with my caregiver groups that I speak to, always stress, take time for yourself. As a caregiver, your time is fleeting. You don't have much, and free time is a premium. But if you don't take care of yourself, you can care for the ones you love. So that is my self-care thing. If nothing else, take time for yourself. Take a moment, disengage from everything, even if it's only for 5 minutes. And that's my biggest bit of advice.
Thanks, Ted. Okay, Anya, we're going to come down to California. So Anya's in Monterey. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Dealing with some allergies. So I'm like, I have an appointment soon with a new allergist, and they were like, you can't take any of your Zyrtec and all of that. So I'm like, suffering. But anyway, hi, everyone. I am Anya. I live in Northern California, currently in Monterey. I know Leslie through dance classes. I am a dance and dance fitness instructor for people with and without disabilities. I have been in the world of athletics for pretty much my whole entire life, probably since I was 5 years old. So in terms of self-care, that has really been my outlet. As an instructor, I have definitely made it a point to feel the same benefits as my students, or at least kind of give the same energy that I want the students to gain from the classes that I teach. And so I really feel that mutual, like all of the benefits that you would get from exercise, I feel it too. But I also make it a point to take classes from other instructors to kind of fill my cup and kind of gain a little bit more insight into the world of athletics and exercise than I already have. So yeah, so I kind of, that my biggest thing in terms of self-care has been and always will be that exercise component, because it really has helped me holistically in just so many ways. But I also make it a point to like have conversations with people that I have lost touch with, especially when the pandemic hit. I just found that having connections with other people has been so important, and also developing connections with other people, I've noticed, has been super important, and has also, I feel like that has been the biggest gift when everything hit, is suddenly all of these avenues started to open up, all these doors started to open up to meeting new people. I have students from the East Coast. I have, I am joining meetings with different organizations that I've always wanted to be a part of, but couldn't because they're from a different part of the world. And they're I'm financially able to make them because they're either free or donation based. So, I really feel that, as odd as it sounds, when everything hit, I started to kind of gain a better sense of self, and I actually am focusing more on self-care and focusing more on what makes me happy and what makes me feel full, especially since we're in a position now where we have to kind of figure that out, or we're going to go crazy. We're going to feel stuck. So yeah. Other than that, I'm an advocate. I also work for an advocacy organization for people with spinal cord injuries, but also spinal related disabilities. I have spina bifida myself, which is a birth defect affecting the spine. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Thanks, Anya.
Mhm.
Okay, we're gonna move to the East Coast. Danny, are you you set up? Okay.
Hi,
Welcome.
can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right. Well, congratulations on your anniversary.
Thank you.
I'm Danny Van Leeuwen. I'm known as Health Hats. I'm known as Health Hats because I'm a person with multiple sclerosis. I've been caregiver to several family members' end of life journey. I'm a nurse. I wear other hats as well. I'm a podcaster. I am a patient caregiver activist. Nice to see you all. I'm sorry I'm only going to be here for a few more minutes, but I wanted to recognize Leslie's good work.
Well, thanks, Danny. Do you have a self-care secret you want to share with people?
It's
Start
not a secret.
podcast.
No secret. Do it.
Do it.
That's
Okay.
it.
Hi, Danny, really quick, I just wanted to interrupt. My name's Clarissa. I'm a yoga instructor, and I also have had multiple sclerosis for 10 years. So nice to connect, and I'd love to hopefully exchange information. Leslie, if you could get a little maybe sheet going, passing around, that way we can all keep up with each other. I'd really, really appreciate that. Wonderful to meet you, Danny.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's follow up with Clarissa. So why don't you go now and talk about self-care, Clarissa?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Clarissa, and I am a yoga instructor out of California. I am in the Central Valley. I live in Merced. And self-care, oh my, wow. I think I could write a book if I felt like it, but I'm too busy like helping, get it done. So self-care is a big thing. Like I'm actually designing a program right now called Multiple Sclerosis Mamas, designed for mamas um, living with MS, having young ones that are pregnant. And it's like literally all about self-care because many of us can relapse during pregnancy, after pregnancy. So it's a lot of self-care. The nature, and maybe this isn't the way for every yoga instructor, but I feel like the nature of how I was trained and how I look at yoga is it is self-care. That is the basis of it. It's not an exercise. There are 8 limbs of yoga, and honestly, the very last one is asana or movement practice. So it's so important and it's such a multifaceted thing, right? I mean, self-care, we can be watching TV and still getting in our self-care, eating our favorite ice cream, that's self-care, whatever it is, it's important and we need to prioritize it. And you know what? I got 2 kids and it's like, I don't think I've ever needed self-care ever anymore in my life than now.
Oh, I thought you were going to say they were self-care.
No, well, yes, but I'm saying that like in order for me to give my best to them, I feel like I absolutely have to have that self-care, right?
Right. Yeah. No, I think Ted touched upon that too. I'm sure you got to take care of yourself before you can be there for others.
Totally. Because if not, it's like a cycle, right? I mean, who's sicker, who's whatever. Oh, anyways, really quick, I wanted to introduce myself, everyone. My name is Clarissa, and I run Clarissa Hidalgo Yoga. I contract and I do yoga with local as well as I am expanding to virtual business. I also run Multiple Sclerosis Mamas, which is a new venture for me. Lots of mamas jumping onto this program that I'm designing and launching in May. But other than that, I teach for Dignity Health twice a week, prenatal yoga and accessible yoga, which leads me to how Leslie and I met. We went through the accessible yoga teacher training in San Francisco, and I was lucky enough to be in the class with lovely Leslie, and we have stayed in touch ever since. So thank you so much for bringing me onto this today.
Oh, sure. It's great to have you. Thanks, Clarissa. Okay, so we're going to go over back to the East Coast in the north with Shamika.
Hello, I am Shamika. I am a disability advocate and consultant. I offer resources to people with disabilities, their families, and community organizations. Self-care to me is all of the things that help you be your best you, be your best wife, be your best daughter, be your best boss. And that looks different for everybody, as the last few people said. And I think sometimes, self-care, sometimes we hear self-care and we think about, getting our nails done or, getting our hair done. And all of those things are great. But for me, the things that have been the most impactful as far as self-care is concerned is things like learning to say no and setting boundaries and taking naps and those sort of things, that are a little bit more difficult for us, but are very important to our self-care and to help us be our best selves. For me, lately, really, I was glad to hear, about Clarissa's class, because bringing self-care and bringing health and wellness to people with disabilities. I also have spina bifida. has always been important to me because I think, it's a lot more common now. There's a lot more offers, but when I was starting out, there wasn't a lot of, the things that are available now. And, through this pandemic, I've, which has been, very helpful for me to connect with people online and Zoom and dance. That's how I know Anya. I attend a lot of her classes. I've met Leslie through dance classes. So dance has really been saving grace for me through this time, as well as meditation. I do a meditation Monday on my Facebook page. So anybody is welcome to join that if you're interested. If you're not on Facebook, you can also, I do have a YouTube channel that you can check out my meditations and exercises as well, if you know people that are not Facebook users. So that's a little about me for now.
Thank you, Shamika. Okay, we're going to go down south to my origins and Mark in Fort Lauderdale.
Thank you, Leslie. It's nice to see you. Leslie and I have known each other probably since kindergarten, first grade, somewhere pretty far back. So, and congratulations on your 5-year anniversary, by the way.
Thank you.
And if any of you want to unmute and chime in when I'm talking, go ahead, interrupt me. I was diagnosed with MS back in 2006. At the time, I had a pretty stressful job. I was president and CFO of a publicly traded company. And so we decided as part of the self-care is to try and remove stress. So I raised the 3 kids that we had, which are now 18, 20, and 24. But at the time, we're probably like somewhere in the neighborhood of like 10, 6, and 5 or something of that nature, or 3. And let's see, self-care. I'm the type of person who doesn't like to burden a lot of people. So I believe self-care starts with following up with your doctors, advocating for yourself at your own doctor appointments, doing your own research, asking questions where you need to. And when I say don't burden people, in a way, I don't want to tell people if they ask me how I'm feeling, and it doesn't seem right in a lot of ways. And unless, I don't think there are very many people even know I have MS, because from my standpoint, I just don't announce it. So self-care for me sometimes is understanding my body, which I do very well. I know exactly when something's not feeling right. I know exactly when I'm overtired and I need to step back. I know when not to give myself a shot because the stress level has been too high. But knowing your body, knowing when something's new, knowing when you have an issue, knowing when you have to pull back a little bit, I think that's important. But I guess back to my main point is that raising kids, I like to do activities. You're not allowed to overheat your body, but there are a lot of things to keep in mind, but I just try and do every day something. And the pandemic has put a crimp in that, because a lot of my time as the kids have gotten older has been spent in volunteering in elementary and middle and high school, and like in a significant amount of time, and in places where they give groceries to people who are less fortunate. And so the pandemic has really restricted my ability to go in to a lot. Well, schools are cut out completely, and in helping with some of these other places, my own family doesn't want me to go because they know my condition, so they want me to be safe and those types of things. So this year's been a little bit of a struggle, but not as much as you would think, because I'm a homebody. My kids were home. I cook dinner every night. We watch TV every night. I did decide to go to Dolphin games and Florida Gator games and Panther games I'm going to now. We play safe. We haven't been to a restaurant or really out. We play golf and stuff like that. But I've tried to make life seem in a routine and as normal as possible. And that routine, I think we all live with sometimes, helps bring things back to a normalcy. And so since I'm sort of the mother and the father at times, bringing the normalcy to everyone in the household is sort of what I do. And I don't know, it's one of those things where you just sort of keep going forward, keep pushing on, and deal with what you got to deal with, I suppose. And then this last year, I've had to my Rebif, which is an interferon, which helps with the MS. I've been taking those shots. That's one of the longest ever on this shot. I was on it for almost 13 years. Had to come off because it messed with some of my blood work. And at the time when they were discovering the blood work, they also discovered something else. So now I'm on some other medications that I have to give myself shots for. And so I just find that as you age or get older, you just do what you need to do. You live your life and you just, I don't know, next day, next thing, just keep going forward. And if you make yourself feel positive, be positive, where are you going to go wrong there if everything is supposed to be positive going forward? So that's sort of my self-care.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, we're gonna stay on the East Coast, and we're gonna get on I-95 and head over to Mindy. You want to unmute yourself?
Hello, my name is Mindy. I live in North Carolina. I know Leslie. I met her, I think 11 years ago, after I was diagnosed with myotonic dystrophy. I met her online, had no idea who this lady was who was talking to me about my support group I was trying to create. And then I met her in person at the conference in Houston. So, and we've been friends ever since. I teach chair tap dance for Dance for All Bodies. It's going pretty well. Like I get like 50 people interested, and then my mom and some other person I don't know show up, but that's okay. It'll get better. I have faith. It's a super fun class. There's lots of music and sound and dancing, and I love to teach even more than dancing itself. I love teaching dance. That is my favorite thing to do. As far as self-care, I find it, I question myself. Should I go take a bath, which requires my husband helping me get in and out, or should I just sit here and watch TV another 30 minutes, which isn't as satisfying, but it's still restful. So I know that when it comes to self-care, I have to learn to do the things that are better than laying around and watching TV, doing things that I know will make me feel better after the 30 minutes or so than what I choose to. I'm lazy about self-care is basically what it comes down to. I'm not afraid to ask. I'm not afraid to be a burden like Mark was talking about, but I'm much more comfortable asking for my husband to bring me a drink than I am saying, hey, help me get on the floor and if I come back in 10 minutes and help me get back up, you know, so there's a line there as far as burdening other people, how much I'm willing to do as far as that goes. But I just know when it comes to self-care and doing the things that make me feel good, I need to do a better job. I need to not be so lazy about it, because I know when I do the big things, when I take the extra class or take the long bath with a bath bomb, I do feel better than I do otherwise. So that's what I know about self-care.
Thanks, Mindy. Okay, we're going to come back to the West Coast, and just south of me is Lorraine. Welcome, Lorraine, in LA area.
Orange County, Huntington Beach, California. Not LA. So this is fun. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you for the invitation. And I've known Leslie for, this will be 9 years. I too have myotonic dystrophy, but when my grandson was born almost 9 years ago is when my daughter and my grandson were diagnosed. was 2 weeks before he was born. And so he was born with the most severe, he was born with congenital myotonic dystrophy. My husband and I are his legal guardians because my daughter is more physically and cognitively challenged to do things. So we're raising my grandson, Zen. So he's a big part of my life. And, but personally, my journey started as a child. I was born without hip sockets. At the age of 2 was my first surgery. I then went on to have 10 surgeries throughout my life on my hips. I now have replaced, they have been replaced, but for the first 8 surgeries, they were reconstructed. And there was very little I could control during that process. Couldn't control the fact that my parents could not come into the hospital. That was when hospitals didn't like parents coming in. So there was an hour visit during the day and an hour visit in the evening. Well, my dad worked 2 jobs and my mother didn't drive. So it was a 1 hour in the evening, but yet not every evening. So I'm going to say I was prematurely transcended to a spiritual relationship with God. God was a friend. God was somebody I could talk to, I could rely on, because there really wasn't anybody else. The medical personnel caused me pain and embarrassment and shame. They treated children like you weren't going to remember any of this. We were not treated respectfully. So anyway, I went on to become a nurse. And I enjoyed that for 35 years before I was medically unable to perform that. But at that time, still didn't know what the reason was. I just knew my legs weren't working well and my arms weren't working well. I didn't have the strength. So that was I was 50 years old. At the age of 60 is when I was diagnosed with myotonic dystrophy, along with Crystal and the baby. But my development of self-care was something I could control, something I could do. My attitude was always that my self-care depended upon what I gave out to others, as well as what I took in. I was the center of this flow. And a little different attitude on asking for help. I know that makes me feel good when somebody asks me for help to be able to help them. So I remember that aspect and give my husband the opportunity to help me so he'll feel better about himself. It's a win. It's a win both ways. It keeps me humble and honest and respectful that I know he's a caring, loving man, and gives me that opportunity to share that. But also what's really important, most important, is my mental attitude of what I let in and what I let out. There are a number of movie genres I don't ever go to. I like to sing or have music that is uplifting. My exercise prior to the pandemic was water. I like to be in the pool. It didn't cause me, it was awesome floating and moving around in the water. I can't wait to get back to that. And I have my grandson, Zen. He's been in the pool for 2 years. When he first got in the water, he looked unbelievably uncoordinated. Right arm, left, they didn't go together. It was, oh my God. Really saw the level of cognitive challenge that he had. Slowly saw that changing with him. His strength increased, his mobility, his joy for swimming, because he can swim on his back. He can hold his breath and go down and get the ring. So the water, think of it. We came from a water environment. And so to go back to a water environment is natural. And so I love watching him every week. I pay for a private instructor, and he's our joy. He's our joy. Evening time is with him. When I first met Leslie 9 years ago, she was eating. I went up to her table, introduced myself. I wanted to become a facilitator for myotonic dystrophy. And she taught me very well. I am so appreciative of her open heart and her sharing. My group has grown, and again, my nursing background and being a nurturer and being in the patient role for so long, I can speak as well as I can listen. And so it's been a great opportunity by giving back to this community, been a great opportunity to feel valuable. It validates me. And I've also, whenever I can, I volunteer regarding this diagnosis. I've taken my daughter and my grandson, because 3 generations make for a great picture. When we've gone to local colleges, medical students, and presented our story, and have found we've made a great impact on them. And so I'm just finished with sharing our story with a pharmaceutical who's working on a drug for myotonic dystrophy. My grandson has been volunteered as soon as UCLA. They're just right behind Stanford, but there's a clinical trial going on. And all this is part of self-care. By taking care of ourselves, doing for ourselves, I know it's also helping the community, because we're all connected that way. Another important thing that I do, people who are a drain on me, I walk away from. The people I keep in my life are inspiring people. I can inspire them. Now, that's not saying like somebody calls in their tears. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about somebody who maligns or doesn't respect me, or listen to me, or lies. That's a very important aspect of my self-care. Regardless of the blood relation, I've had to close those doors, but then I open up a door for somebody else. And I think that's, again, my responsibility back as a community. Self-care, okay, not going to have this person in my life, but also what can I give to somebody else? So that's it.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, Lorraine. I know in different episodes, I've talked with different people about that, staying away from toxicity.
Right.
I mean, you don't want to go near an EPA site where there's, toxic waste, and you want to stay away from people that, are steeped in negative energy, and that is part of self-care. Thank you.
Especially for us empaths, right? For those of us that absorb energy, it is a very, I really like the virtual thing, but sometimes I can still feel drained after a virtual practice. It is a trip, I would say. Just, it's so true. Protect yourself. I loved it, Lorraine. Wonderful to meet you.
Yes, and me as well. When you talk about the pandemic, one more thing. I have looked at it as a blessing. All the money that we weren't spending on traveling and entertainment, oh my gosh, I didn't realize, look at all this money in the bank. So we did all this stuff around the house that we just hadn't done. And we are so happy at home. I love my home. And I thought, just, God gave us this home, and I'm glad for the opportunity to take care of it. And we we've enjoyed it. We too, because of the immune system issues that my grandson and I have, we haven't gone anywhere. We haven't had anybody in our house. We haven't had, Christmas or Thanksgiving, but we had the three of us, and it actually felt complete. It's hard to understand. Slowly, I've let in Zen's therapist one by one, but they wear masks, and I've encouraged them to get their vaccine. And because Zen, being only 8 years old, almost 9, he can't get a vaccine. So everybody that works with him has to have the vaccine. That's the best we can do, because Zen's respiratory is highly challenged. So anyway, pandemic has been a great thing. I've enjoyed being home.
That's a good transition. Yes. And so we have about 15 minutes. I just wanted to share two main things that have really been critical for me during the pandemic. And the first is sort of amping up my movement and exercise and dance. And that's how I met Anya and Shamika. And then I've been doing these Zoom social things. And some of you, have been part of that, and I've really enjoyed it. And, if you asked me a year and a half ago, trying to imagine what if you were quarantined, who would you be socializing with? And I haven't made a whole new set of friends. It's interesting to see who of my friendships were able to transition to a virtual world. And then, this door opened to all these new friendships. So it's been like you said, Lorraine, kind of there's bittersweet, a silver lining to the whole experience. So who would like to share how they've coped with the pandemic? Mark?
Well, one thing I wanted to add is something that you just said is that when it first started, I was personally trapped in Colorado, but when I came back, I felt bad for my dad, who was 84. And so starting in June, I started a call with my brothers and sisters, and we started inviting other relatives once a week just to keep him connected to family. And so now we do it every Thursday for the 40-minute free time. And sometimes cousins, jump on, jump off. Sometimes it's aunts and uncles. So every week, that connection, just seeing a face, and it's something that, I don't know, I guess pre-pandemic, I would call my dad every day and talk to him, but seeing him every day through Zoom or once a week, that was holiday related. But now we see each other every week. And I think that if you're going to say something's a blessing, I think there's a connection there that may never have happened, especially with my cousins jumping on the call in Arizona and Iowa and some of the other places that we've spread out to in life. And so for some things, the pandemic has actually taught us that about our family and keeping those connections and what it takes to actually reach out and make that happen. So there has been some blessing, I think, in what's happened in terms of those connections. And so I just wanted to share that when you talked about Zoom, because I've done the high school ones, but unfortunately Saturday I feel guilty about joining because it means ditching my family during TV time. And so, it's one of those things where it's like my family or my high school friends. I don't know, but.
Well, I'm glad you've checked it out a few times. We know we went to high school together. Okay, who else would like to share? Thanks, Mark. Okay, Verla.
Okay, hi. Because of the research, I knew that spending 3 minutes outside close to grass, trees, and shrubs would lift my self-esteem. And everybody else, I'd started a volunteer walking group with seniors in my area. And so they all read my book and they know this too. So we meet each other outside, and that was a way, and there's more and more people that were just walking out there. And when I have a little prop here, and it's a, it's a fractal. And fractal, according to the science, like they go in patterns, right? And they go by scale of big, small, but they're exactly the same naturally occurring patterns. And that we do, and they all know this. And they say, we're looking at fractals because the eye has evolved to just, when we look at a plant, like the plant behind Lorraine there, the ivy, it just floods our emotions and releases our stress up to 60%. And for me, this has been a lifeline, and I know it has been for others who just their heads are spinning around, their thoughts are spinning, and they can't even get to meditating, or they can't get. But if they simply get themselves into looking into the branches of a tree, whether they're inside or outside, this has been life-saving, I think, for many.
Yeah. Thanks, Ferla. Anya?
All right. So kind of to piggyback off of what Lorraine said, I truly also believe that I have found many different blessings in the pandemic, as I said earlier. But I also like the idea of finding coping mechanisms, because although there have been many blessings, there have been many challenges as well. So to speak on that, one thing that I think really helped, right now I'm with my parents. As soon as the pandemic hit, I used to live in San Diego, so now I'm in Monterey with my parents. And one of the things that we established as a family, because we're in close quarters and there's more than one of us, is a schedule. So, we kind of have a sense of like what our Monday through Sunday looks like. I, for one, I make sure I have my coffee every morning. I kind of having this idea of like what to kind of expect each morning has kind of allowed me not to go insane, if that makes sense. I have on top of my physical disability, I have anxiety and depression. And so I always have to be mindful of like myself and my mental health, and making sure that I am engaging in things that are going to keep me in an even keel. So keeping that schedule has really been helpful in coping, and also making sure that all of us in our household have open communication. So if we have frustrations, if we're feeling some type of way, we have developed a safe space for us to express that. We've developed, we've given ourselves opportunities to like, okay, mom needs me time at this hour. I need me time at this hour. My parents work from 9 to 5. And so I know not to bug them then, that has kind of been my biggest saving grace in coping mechanisms. And and then also making sure that I am taking advantage of what has opened up because of the pandemic. So making sure I'm taking advantage of all of the virtual platforms that have opened up for people with disabilities that haven't opened up before for me and for my community, and just kind of like keeping an open mind and making sure that I'm like keeping that mindset of self growth has been really important for me. And there have been, a few other things here and there, but those have been like the most important, scheduling, and then making sure that I'm keeping myself an open mind and taking advantage of everything that's out there, and hoping for like being an advocate and making sure that what has worked, especially in the workspace virtually, stays. Once everything opens up, can we still have a virtual platform for work? And things like that, because I think that in terms of accommodations for people with disabilities, it's opened up a lot of opportunities. So I want those to stay. But yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Sonia. I agree. I want them to stay too. Shamika?
One something that's been very helpful for me with coping is instituting daily rituals. I have a list of tools that I've learned over the years that I've kind of put into a list to intentionally make sure that I am going back to these tools throughout my day, throughout my week. I can read them to you quickly. The first one is gratitude. A lot of people touched on that. The other next one is celebration. If you follow me on Facebook, you'll see that I post daily celebrations, and this is 5 things that I loved about my day that are connected to the 5 senses. So something I smelled that day, something I tasted that day, something I heard that day. So another daily ritual for me. I already mentioned meditation, moving my body in a way that I love. I've talked about dance. So that could be whatever works for you. Some people like weightlifting, some people like, whatever, yoga, whatever. 10 to 15 minutes of decluttering. So I don't know about you, but I hate cleaning, I hate housework, and my house would look like a pigsty if I didn't intentionally, take care of my house. So I look at anything, I can do anything in 10 and 15 minute increments, right? So I set a timer and say, okay, for 15 minutes, I'm going to declutter, whether it's clean out the closet, fold the laundry, whatever it is. Another thing that is very helpful for me with mindset is affirmations. So I have lots of affirmation cards spread all over my house. So when I'm moving from room to room, there's an affirmation that I can focus on and things like that. Nourishing my mind. So listening to books, listening to podcasts, bringing in positive energy into my mind. Nourishing my body, making sure I'm getting enough water, enough sleep, movement, sunshine. Now it's actually, in New York, it's springtime now and the sun's actually out. A desires list, being intentional about what I want to see in my day, in my year, in my month, writing that down in a journal. This is what I want my day to look like, and really be intentional about that. And then also to go with that, visualizations. What does it look like? What are the smells that I want to be surrounded by? What are the people that I want to be surrounded by? Even though we're not getting together, I think somebody mentioned, even though we're not physically getting together, the people, getting together in a setting like this, you're still consuming energy. You're still consuming people's energy. So who are the people's energy you are allowing into your space, whether it's virtually, whether it's on the phone, whether whatever. So that's my little.
Thank you. And Lorraine, I know you had raised your hand before.
So coping with the pandemic, there was interesting, we had a local realtor that sent around little invitations at Halloween time and said, we're going to have a Halloween parade, meet at the local school. I met more people there than I've met in a long time in my neighborhood. All the kids were decorated. Zen can't do distance. He has a big adaptive trike. And so he rode his bike. We walked with him to the school, and there must have been 100 people there. And it's like, oh my God, we're all neighbors. And so we did this walk. We had somebody, the old car club. It was so much fun. We had never done that before. And then we have an annual conference for the people with myotonic dystrophy. You know, MDF supports that. We had to do it virtually in September. We had the most people attend than we've ever had. We had people from around the world who could attend because we were doing this virtually. And it made us think about, oh my gosh, you know, that's true. Even that I continue the Zoom support groups. And we have good days, we have bad days. And this way, you can just stay in bed if you want to and stay connected. It's been a great opportunity that I know I wouldn't have stepped into. I'm not driven to technology. I was kind of thrown into this, but it's been a great tool. And I think after a Zoom meeting, I too feel really tired. I think it's because there's not really an exchange of the energy. It's me giving all this energy. And so I get really tired afterwards. That's a little bit different and I look forward to when we're able to see each other again. There's that exchange and I get renewed and my cup is full. And so it's a little bit different for me. We spoke, there's, you know, Shanika, you said a little bit something different. That's my experience. I leave drained.
Well, on that note, I just want to respect everyone's time. It's 12:30 and this was wonderful. I so appreciate you all spending this time and you know, it's recorded, so it'll be available on the Facebook page if you want to, you know, watch yourself. But it's just very heartfelt. I really appreciate it. And of course, thank you very much, and I will see you all online.
Thank you.